on a discretionary exemption basis in accordance with Texas Local Government Code 262.024, subsection 7, subsection A, as requested by Commissioners Court, and authorizing the purchasing agent to execute contract and file the appropriate award documents for record. So let me ask the court to please pause. I am going to allow citizens to be heard. So Thomas, you're going to have to help keep time. Also, as a point of personal privilege, Commissioner Moody, you asked that Jackie Callanan come before the dais because of her time conflict.
Thank you, Judge.
So Jackie,
I know Jackie has a time constraint, a luncheon that she's speaking at, and so I thought it would be good for her to have a few minutes here to be able to discuss this agenda item and any of her concerns as it relates to the elections that's forthcoming.
Thank you, Commissioner. Judge and Commissioners, I'm here as a resource. I thank you, Commissioner Moody, for arranging this. I know we, the Elections Office, are coming into this at a late time, but we do have to stress a few things. I did bring with me, which I will have to take back, there's already organizations out there that are registering people to vote. The state parties of both parties have been mailing these out for the last couple weeks. They are pre-filled with a lot of information in them. But I will tell you, we've had two that are very disturbing to me. One came in, and I've written on the front of it, and a woman brought this in, and she was very angry. She was very, very angry. This application is made out for her sister and her sister's name. Her sister passed away 10 years ago. This woman came in and literally threw this at us. We have another one here that came down to the office. These people are coming down into our office because they're very concerned about what's going on. This one, the person has lived at this same address for 26 years and has been voting for 26 years and received one that says you're not registered. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. We are doing, for a presidential election, as you can imagine, many, many, many people, many organizations are out there registering people to vote. We have brought in some temp help to let us keep up with it so that we can actually fulfill the law. And I'd like just to take 5 minutes, if I may. I want you to understand, when we receive a voter registration card, our office processes that card. And I mean by that, we do the data entry. Then at the end of the day, we wrap up all of our work product for that day, and we're required to send it up to the Secretary of State. They take that data, whether it be 500, whether it be 800, whether it be 1,000, and they are the ones that check the data. They check for SSN, they check for TDL, they check birth dates, and they check citizenship. If they pass all of those, they send it back to us with a voter unique identifier, that voter registration number. We cannot assign a voter registration number until it has gone through all of those checks and balances. And so every day we get back our list, and there's a deceased. There's TDL doesn't match, SSN doesn't match, it's a non-citizen. We get back the list of names from the Secretary of State's office, and then we immediately cancel them if we have to, or if it, I mean, I hate to tell you, but we're human in our office, and sometimes they'll fat finger or transpose numbers. So when we get one that says driver's license doesn't match, birth date doesn't match, we go back and check that card. to see if it was ours. If it was, then we send it back up and it passes. If it does not pass, we then have to send a confirmation card to that person because we want them to be registered to vote. So we send it to that address and we ask them to please complete this confirmation card. And in reality, that's a voter registration card. They have 30 days to get that back to us. We're putting them in there. All of a sudden, it goes up to the state. The state comes back and says, you have all these duplicates. Basically, what are you doing? So, and every piece of paper that we get is scanned into our system so that we have a record of exactly what happened. So please understand, this goes up and it goes down. And as of today, before I came over, we have 1,270,000 registered voters in Bexar County. And the staff is doing a fantastic job of trying to keep up. And so what I'm asking, or my ask for you, is if you go forward with this, I would like you to also authorize staff, money to pay the staff, money for postage as we have to reach out to these people again and again. I'm here to answer any questions.
Let me ask the court to do this. We have quite a few people signed up. I'm not trying to, but they're also going to be limited to a 3-minute. I would really like to get everybody heard. I want everybody heard today. So if we could, I'm going to allow comments, but understand that we got a lot of people here. So I want to get through it. So I'll open the floor. Commissioner Moody.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions, Jackie. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's very important background that this court needs to realize and hear directly from you as our elections administrator. Another thing that you mentioned before, the backlog. As all of these different groups are doing exactly what we're proposing to do today, those are piling up in your office, is that correct? And
yes,
you
sir.
already have temps working on it. What's that backlog look like today?
There's probably 3,000 or 4,000 that are sitting there to be data entered.
And that's quite a bit. And what happens if, these individuals through this timeline that you mentioned show up on election day and they are not fully registered in the system? What does that look like?
It could be one of two things. It could be that they're marked that we've put them in, but there was a problem with the registration, and they're marked as PSV, pending state verification. And if that happens, they are at the table. They're ready to be qualified. It says it's a PSV. That voter has to move to the side where they have to fill out a statement of residence card, which in reality is another voter registration card, and then they're allowed to vote. If we have not even gotten back a PSV or any notification that they should be on suspense, then that person whose record has not been updated will have no choice but to vote provisional. And at that point, when we get the provisional ballot back, then we have 5 days after that to go see, did we have an application? Did we miss an application? What happened? Whether we can count that vote or not.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. And I think it's just important to understand how much more complicated we're making the process potentially on election day for you, for election judges, for staff to be able to accomplish the election. Could you also just mention how many voter registrars do we have total in Bexar County?
We have upwards of 900, close to 1,000. And the League of Women Voters is just a stellar group. They do a fantastic job.
So we have over 900 either individuals or groups that are registering voters in Bexar County today.
Correct.
And just to make sure everyone heard you, you mentioned that a lot of those registrations are duplicates, correct? Because you have groups that are out there doing the same thing, whether they're PACs, whether they're candidates, whether they're parties, they're using similar lists, they're mailing the same list, and people are responding to all of them, and your office and your staff are having to sort through that, correct?
Correct, and handle the phone calls.
Okay. Yeah, I have no doubt. Thank you, Jackie, for being here and for sharing that background with us.
Judge. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you, Judge. Jackie, I'll try to be brief. I know you have to run, and we've got plenty of folks to hear from, but I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what your testimony was. It sounded like you described the process that, in terms of verification, once you had those applications, there was some back and forth between your office and the Secretary of State's office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
So it sounded like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded as if the verification, albeit maybe a little bit burdensome, was a good thing in the sense that you can't really poke holes in the integrity of the process. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. So it sounds like it's more of a resource concern that you've got. You've got voter registration. You've got groups that are out there doing voter registration, whether they're set up at a community event or church, whatever it may have you. The item that we're dealing with later today is about the county being more proactive in voter registration for people that move. And your concern simply is that the workload may be too much for your office to handle. Is that accurate?
That part's accurate, but I also will add that I want to protect the voters.
Sure.
I don't want them to be anxious. I don't want them to be intimidated. I don't want them to be angry. And that's what we are seeing.
And I understand. And the last thing that I want to do is make your job tougher, because I understand you're under a lot of pressure, particularly in a high turnout election. But let me ask you this, for resources, in order to, if there is an uptick and this passes, do you have a number in mind of what you would need to ensure that your office can faithfully respond to those additional applications?
Again, right now, full-time staff, I have 4 processors.
Okay.
We have temps in there now. We've got about 10 temps. And we have slots literally for 4 more.
Okay.
And then we're maxed out as far as infrastructure.
Could you repeat that? 10 what? 10
Pardon me?
Temp, I couldn't hear. You had 4 full-time workers?
Yes.
And how many temporaries?
As of right now, 10.
10 temporaries.
Yes, and we can accommodate 5 more, and then our infrastructure's completed.
Like your
Okay.
office space, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Commissioner. Thanks for the clarification. So if you could, Jackie, and I don't need it today, but if you could get us a number so that we can discuss with our budget office how we could get you those additional resources if in the event this moves forward. I just wanted to simply clarify with you that it sounds as if you feel very comfortable with the verification process, but it's more about the manpower, womanpower to get that done in a timely manner, correct?
Again, partially. I am really concerned about the voters.
About what?
About the voters. I'm
Right.
concerned about upsetting them.
Okay. And I mean, look, I think that the item we're discussing is simply to get more people engaged in the process, to participate. There is no discussion about who to vote for, but it's simply about getting registered for those that are not registered in the county. And would you agree that that is a worthwhile effort to get more people engaged in the civic process?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you very much, Judge. In the 2 examples of mail that had upset people, did I hear correctly those are from the state party mass registrations or mass mail-outs?
They're from a group that the state had reached out to called the Voter Participation Center.
And that would be the Secretary of State?
No,
Which?
the State Democratic Party.
Oh, okay. So it's called the Voter what now?
The Voter Participation Center.
Okay, the Voter Participation Center. Okay. So it's only the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party, doing the registrations in
No, the
mass?
Republican Party has started. We've started to get some of those. But I didn't bring any of those because they hadn't been vetted yet.
Okay. So, yeah, and just, for my recollection of election law, as well as my work as have been a registrar and been a precinct chair, so I remember a little bit about this. The state parties and the local parties have special authority that many groups would not to do larger mailings of to voters. Is that basically right? Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Again, I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
I can't speak to that.
All right, we won't address that at the moment. So let's talk a little bit about the backlog. It does concern me in September that we're at 3,000 or 4,000. And so on a day-to-day basis, what is the human capacity to process per person registrations? How many can a person process in a day?
About 150 to 200.
Approximately 150 to 200. Okay, so normally I could crunch the math very quickly, but I'm in the middle of questions, and I'll get back to that in terms of what the budget should be. Now the vendor that the Democratic Party hired at the state that's not the same vendor that we're looking at, I guess, is it?
I don't know, sir. We were not included in the discussions for the county.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. I think it's important for us to hear from the public, and then we'll come back. The only other thing I would say while we have you is we are going to, I guess, approve the early voting locations on the 10th?
Next week.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will just say that obviously we have another historic election, and we have an important early voting location work to do. And so if you could send over your draft recommendations, I don't know if you have already, but did you send those already?
They've been over with the agenda.
Okay, got it. I must have missed that in my briefing, so maybe I had my briefing too early. Okie doke. Thank you very kindly.
Commissioner Clay Flores.
Jackie, I just wanted to thank you for being here this morning, this season that's really busy for you and your staff. And I also want to applaud your office, your staff, for the elections integrity that your staff work with us to do day in and day out. I had previously spoken to David Smith about you getting more staff to make sure as we ramp up for this presidential election, as always, more people go out to vote. It'd be great if they also did it in primaries and runoffs.
Absolutely.
And municipal voting. But we know they will show up for presidential, so that's something that we had already been speaking to the county manager's office about. So we're going to make sure that you get the staff that you need. And I just appreciate your diligence in caring about all voters in Bexar County, and that you work with the Secretary of State of the great state of Texas in terms of checks and balances to make sure that the people who need to vote are voting, and working with our constituents. I know firsthand the things that you guys do back and forth and call individuals to make sure if addresses are off and things of that nature. So I believe that you and your staff go above and beyond. So thank you for your continual work that you guys do in terms of elections integrity here in Bexar County.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Moody.
I'll just echo as well. Thank you for everything you've done for Bexar County elections over the years. How long, if I may ask, have you been in your current role with Bexar County elections?
19 years.
19?
Yes, sir.
So in those 19 years, have you ever seen a mass mail-out for voter registration by Bexar County Court?
Not from the court. No, sir, we have not.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now start with